Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage. Mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Aron from Jeranism. I'm here with another live video for you today. I want to discuss the Ranen interview that we had on Monday night and respond to all the things being said about him. Let's see here. It might be an interesting journey as you'll kind of find out how my mind works and how I come to the conclusions I do. And then after that, I'll go through the chat and see if there's any questions and see if anybody has anything to say. I'll answer all super chats. So we'll do that after we go through the Ranen video. So that's what's on the docket for today. Quick announcement for anybody interested that Globebusters will be back this Sunday at noon Pacific. So tune into that. That's on the Globebusters channel, and we'll start another season. So hope to see you there. Again, that's this coming Sunday at noon Pacific. Anyway, for those who don't know, Monday night on Jeranism Raw, we had Ranen. And regardless kind of your personal opinion, my thing is, get this up for you. My thing is that I want to have people like him on my show. I want to talk to those kind of people as it gives me an idea of who exactly those people are. And it gives us a unique view kind of into like the social dynamics which shape people's belief system. Excuse me, one second. Cough. Then, as we are about to do, we can then discuss it and hopefully move forward. So that's what we're going to do today. This may take a few minutes to discuss, though, because we have to dissect a few things first so that we're clear, and we'll look at the documentary a little bit. And as I said, you'll get a unique perspective into exactly how I think. But a quick disclaimer, if you hate me, turn off the show. Let's do that. If you hate Flat Earth, turn off the show. If you're in the chat spreading your hate or calling people names, etc., expect to get blocked. I'm now in the Owen Benjamin camp. Honestly, ban. So later in the chat, if I see any of those types, you'll be gone. It's that easy. Life is too short to deal with hate and fear. My channel is for me, right? It's for me speaking my mind. You can make a channel all you want and start speaking your mind. And if I ever want to get into anyone's chat, if I ever went into anyone's chat talking a bunch of shit, I would expect to be banned. And so should you. So if you don't like it, get out. If you don't agree, that's fine. I disagree with a lot of things on YouTube, but I certainly don't go and attack people or expect that in a chat that I should be able to be rude and obnoxious and get away with it. So yeah, you can go spend 4 years like I have building a channel and providing some of your opinions, and maybe people will tune in. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But once you've built that audience for, what is it now? 4 years. It'll be 4 years next month. Then you can see what happens when haters come in and want to disrupt and spread their hate and lies and their misunderstandings. And just because you repeat what you're taught doesn't make you right. And so mods, enjoy yourselves, ban them. I no longer care about people who can't present an opposing viewpoint just like in an adult manner. So let's begin to dissect Aron Ranen. First, I've heard saw a lot of people saying it, saw a lot of comments. Is there any chance that Aron is a shill? Is he government-controlled opposition? I've heard a lot of those kind of things. The answer for me, clearly, no. So I want to go through exactly why. Okay, we have to remember first and foremost that he was given $65,000 by the state of Ohio to prove, remember that, to prove that we went to the moon. Now, if you've seen his film, then you know, like I do, that it proved absolutely nothing other than NASA was started and run by Germans, many of them ex-Nazi SS officers who are criminals. And you can excuse it all you want, but the facts are facts. Werner von Braun would be tried as a war criminal if he was alive today. He was implicit in the deaths of thousands. And so he watched the hanging of prisoners, and we're going to look at a couple of those things here shortly. And, these Peenemünde is the name of the camp, the rocket camp. And basically it was slave labor who were required to build these V-2 rockets, and von Braun was the head of the camp. And we've, spoken to prisoners that were there who state that he was there and watched 5 people get hung every day. And the reason they did this is if there was any talk of anybody sabotaging these rockets, because you have to remember, these are slave laborers, basically building rockets that would be dropped on their home countries. So they would be in there, maybe a little sabotage, but to prevent that, at the start of every day, they would hang 5 of these slaves so that you would kind of tell the other slaves, this is what's going to happen to you. So if they were bad workers or they were maybe, accused of sabotage, they would be hung. And von Braun knew it, and he was right there. So, he proves that. The video shows NASA as being completely and totally worthless. He does a good job of that. The lost tapes of Apollo, he talks about that. He shows NASA as being racist. The video shows that, and like I've said all along, that all the data from these tracking stations could have been easily simulated. So I'll show you some of those things to start. We'll just start there. Let me bring up this documentary and we'll just talk about it a little bit and basically dissect this Aron Ranen interview and talk about the things that he said in it, which I thought were quite interesting. So first, this is Aron Ranen's documentary, Did We Go? The links are in the description. Please check it out. It doesn't have that many views. It's in 6 parts. It's completely free on YouTube, so check it out. But I want to start, the start of the movie is even funny because let's listen to it and we'll talk about it after.
30 seconds. Forward. Contact light.
So just remember this. We've got Neil and Buzz about to land on the moon. There is a gigantic rocket blasting beneath their feet. How many feet below them? I don't know. 5 feet? 10 feet? Rocket blasting. Do we hear it? Let's listen, see if we can hear that rocket underneath his feet.
Contact light. Okay, engine stop. We copy you down, Eagle. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
No, I didn't hear anything at all. Nothing even close. So anyway, what happens at the start of this documentary, and this is why we can know that it's not some sort of government psyop or what people are saying, that it's some sort of controlled opposition. Because if they're going to pay somebody to go and prove that we went to the moon, then this is not the documentary that would come out. Remember that he's paid by the state of Ohio, okay, $65,000 to go make this film. The state of Ohio is Neil Armstrong's home state. So if NASA was behind this or the government, they want to prove people that he went, the first thing they would do is tell Neil, hey, you need to do an interview with this guy. What happened instead? Aron Ranen went to Ohio and staked out his house, talked to his friends, who said, where is Neil? We don't know either. And basically proved that Neil's a hermit, that he would not even do this interview. And it's not rare. He never did any interviews except for NASA's, anniversary interviews. But he never did any private interview, and this is just another private interview. He also went to, let's listen to this part here. Pretty interesting. He went to a radio station in Ohio, and they actually set up a certain call-in line for Neil to call in and discuss this moon landing thing. And did he call in? Of course not.
Your shell. This is your opportunity.
It was perhaps the most documented event of all time. But did we really go?
Let's
Was
listen
to
to
try to
this.
communicate with Neil Armstrong using the 50,000 watts of your station.
It's a flamethrower, I tell you. Mr. Armstrong, come out of your shell. This is your opportunity.
So even the radio host is saying, Mr. Armstrong, come on, come out of your shell. This is your opportunity. Take a call. Call us. Talk about the moon landings. No, Neil never came out. And according to the interview with Ranen, he said that he was outside of his house for a few days and could not get an interview with him. So again, this is not what you want to come out if you're NASA. This is not what you want to come out if you're the state of Ohio. Let's continue on. An interesting thing. Let's watch Buzz Aldrin. We'll just kind of go through this video, but watch Buzz here.
Where were you?
Watch. I don't know if you can see my mouse. I always forget to go back and look. Watch this little corner of his mouth. I know it's not much. I know people can say, oh, that's just, circumstantial evidence, whatever. Just watch.
Allegedly walk on the moon's surface.
Where were you on July 20th, 1969?
I was on the surface of the moon.
Let's watch again. I don't know. Do you have a nervous
Allegedly
tick
walk
when
on
you're
the
being
moon's surface.
Where were you on July 20th, 1969?
I was on the surface of the moon.
Very, very interesting. So there's so much more I was just talking about when I did the little intro. Let's check out this. So remember, I've been saying forever that space is all mathematical and therefore it can be simulated in one simple computer. It can output things that people will think are really happening in the outer space fantasy world, but they're not actually happening. And this video goes and proves it by going to the man who built and was in charge of the satellite receiving station and talking to him, and then they asked him about it being possibly simulated. Let's see what he's got to say.
I think you're going to want to talk to me too. We tracked the first satellite in the world. We tracked the first everything that went to the moon, everywhere. This was one of the antennas that we received telemetry data from the spacecraft. Yeah, you could, I guess you could simulate it, but we
let's hear that again.
Received telemetry data from the spacecraft. Yeah, you could, I guess you could simulate it, but it wasn't simulated. It was real life data.
So it could be simulated, but it wasn't simulated. It was real life data. But again, nobody would know because it could be simulated. How would you know where it's coming from? So very easy to see that, this movie is not made in any way to make people think that we went to the moon. It did a terrible job. And that's why I think he named it, Did We Go? He didn't name it, We Went. He says, Did We Go? Presents a bunch of evidence that clearly shows me that there's so many holes in this story that it's a joke. So let's watch, let's see what we got on here at part 3.
Nazi crime.
Okay, so here's a good part here. This is the slave I was telling you about here. So we'll
Did you ever see Werner von Braun at the rocket camp?
Yes, we all saw. I mean, anybody who was at the rocket camp saw von Braun, we saw Himmler, we even saw Goering in Peenemünde. That's the only time I saw him there. They used to hang 5 people a day in the entrance of the tunnel. I mean, who wants to see thousands of bodies, skeleton? I mean, that's all we were, skeleton bodies. They didn't bother burying or anything. Like I say, you become bestial.
So you have to also realize in this film that he goes and speaks to a person from the Department of Justice. Let's hear that.
It's like a mass murder letting him loose because he invented something. You wouldn't do that in this country. You would still be in jail. You would still be. So what can you do?
What would have happened to Werner von Braun if he were still alive today? Behind armed guards work America's Nazi hunters, the United States Justice Department's Criminal Division.
Some of the key individuals responsible for the great accomplishment of Apollo 11, the landing of human beings on the moon, were deeply involved in Nazi crimes during World War II. This isn't just guilt by association. It's not just that some of them were in the SS or the Nazi Party. They were personally complicit in Nazi crimes.
So that's why the documentary is great. That's why it's woken up so many people. You can go to part 4. In part 4, we get Gene Kranz telling us that the tapes are missing. Let's listen to that.
It was all and module on these telemetry tapes. So where is this hard evidence?
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right.
Yeah, so that data is missing, as been stated, not like what Bill Nye said in Aron Ranen's interview with Geraldo Rivera, in which Bill Nye said that there was one tape missing. Complete and total horseshit. So, and I believe that's, I don't want to do any parts, part 5.
On the moon.
No, I believe that's it. So there was just a couple things, but go ahead and check out the documentary. It's only an hour in total. But again, we have to look at what this video did in exposing Neil. You know, it's Ohio and Neil's home state, and it's very awkward that he wouldn't show up, that he wouldn't talk to anybody. So I think the documentary did its job, you know. So let's, and I already mentioned everybody knows that Neil never did any independent interviews. So it's easy to see at this point that this documentary was not government run. It's not government funded. It is government funded, sorry. Sure, but it's not government run, or else they would try and prove that we went to the moon, and they did a terrible job of that. The video did no good in that department. Aron woke up a lot of people. He appeared on Glenn Beck's show, in which Glenn Beck made an ass of himself. Laughing, Glenn Beck says something hilarious in it. He says that he believes the moon landings because he talked to Buzz Aldrin, and Buzz Aldrin says he went, which is hilarious. He says, well, no, you believe it because it's on TV. And he says, no, I just believe it because Buzz told me. Which, by the way, that is the best way to find out if somebody's guilty of something. If you think somebody's guilty of rape, just go ask them, did you rape? And they'll say, no. Oh, okay, I believe you. So yeah, go ask thieves if they steal. Go ask murderers if they kill. That's the best way to do it. Just go to Buzz and ask him if he went to the moon. That's the best way, Glenn. Genius move. So anyway, he points out Gene Kranz saying the tapes are gone. You need to watch the documentary. The whole thing is free. So he's paid to prove that we went. Then he makes a documentary called Did We Go?, where Aron admits it's harder than he thought to prove it. And if you've watched the video, then you know that he proved nothing other than what NASA's inept. Speaking of that, happy government shutdown day. I don't know what day we're on now, but it's another day of no NASA, and that's always exciting. And nobody even notices they're gone because it's just another Hollywood-like studio on hiatus. So, oh no, we aren't getting any movies of sand dunes from Devon Island. You know, who cares? $56 million a day is a friggin' joke for these clowns. It's just ridiculous. $12 billion on a James Webb telescope that will provide nothing but more computer-rendered images of Fantasyland. Well, I'm glad personally that NASA is out of commission. So happy that government shut down another day. Sad thing is that they'll be back. Probably to start a new space race. That's my guess. Now that China is on the far side, right? Oh no, a great reason for NASA to ask for more funding to start this whole nonsense again. Oh, they're going to put a base there first, and then Russia will get involved. And it'll be China versus Russia versus America to see who can take the most money from their citizens, a battle to see who can return images as if it's 1970, like China just did, landing on the far side of the moon and returning 2 images, and people go crazy for it. So it's a great scam, isn't it? 2 little images like that, and people think you went to the moon and will continue handing you money. It's 2019. Where is the HD video footage? That's what my question is. I haven't seen it. You know, it's gone. And they don't need it because people accept it purely on their love of the unknown and of space and of their religion. It's totally ridiculous. So let's get back to Aron Ranen. At this point, I see Aron as a filmmaker. We know that. Paid by the state of Ohio to prove we went to the moon. He couldn't do it. And he says so, and then he admitted on my show that he has faith. Exactly the problem, exactly the issue, is that he's just saying, I have faith. We can actually hear that part. I believe I've got that queued up. Let me get there. Maybe I don't. Do I? I thought I did. There we go. Let me bring this up, and then I'll let you see it. 1 second.
I'm joking. Next time we'll do on video, wave my hands so you know it's a joke.
Like I said, I'm actually jealous. I wish that I got to do some of the stuff that you did. You didn't get to see this part. Let me bring this up for you. Trying to find the exact point where it was. I think it was maybe here. Let's bring it up for you to watch too. And here we go. All right, so this is Monday night. Let's listen to Aron. I just want to point out 2 things that he basically said, but let's, sorry if you have to hear me skip around a little. I don't know where I wrote down what time this was. Oh, good. So this was coming back from the break, and I had some questions for Aron, and let's hear what his answer is. All right, welcome. Aron, here's my issue. So you were given $65,000 from Ohio, which is Armstrong's own state. You were given access to NASA, to Gene Kranz, to the archivists, to these original German scientists, to Buzz Aldrin. I should watch your film, Aron, and be convinced that we went. So my confusion is, you stated here tonight that you might be a skeptic, but you hope or you think that we went, but your video doesn't match at all what your opinion is now. Your video shows very clearly that you can't prove it. So isn't it...
well, it's really... how can I... It's hope. It's hope that we really went. It's blind faith. Just...
Could I have been handed a better quote? I mean, this is what I've been saying for 4 years, guys. And he just admitted it. Now, remember, this is even somebody who's been given $65,000 to prove it. Couldn't prove it. And he says here, well, I think we went because it's blind faith. One more time.
Well, it's really, how can I... It's hope. It's hope that we really went. It's... blind faith, just like that band, you know. And
hey, at least you admitted it.
I know that's ridiculous.
Well, at least you admitted it. It is pretty ridiculous, and at least he did admit it. Yeah, so I mean, he just says it right there. It's blind faith, and that exposes exactly the issue. Now, you know, remember, $65,000 may seem like a lot of money over a few months. I don't know how long he took to do this documentary. It might have been 6 months, a year. But remember, with $56 million a day, that NASA could pay 900 people $65,000 a day. Wow. What a total joke. Anyway, Aron admitted that he wants the moon landing to be real, but when asked for proof, his proof was that it's a belief, a blind faith. So, you know, why listen to a vintage space video or a Red's Rhetoric discussion about proving the moon landings? Why would we do that if a filmmaker with access to NASA, to the scientists, to the satellite technicians, to the original German scientists, to Buzz Aldrin. Let's highlight that real quickly. If you didn't hear the interview, one of the things that was said in there, Aron also admitted on the show that Buzz Aldrin charged him $500 for the interview. Who makes $500 an hour? I mean, well, I guess people who lie about going to the moon do. Anyway, does that look good on Buzz? Does it look good on NASA? Does it show NASA in a good light? No. So... government-controlled opposition or something else like that has to be out the window. I don't even know why people make comments like that. It doesn't make sense. It's the same people that say, you know, dinosaurs are fake, you know, right? Dinosaurs are completely fake. Well, I'm a believer that dinosaurs are certainly not as old as they are told, but they're not fake, because if they're fake, then why wouldn't they just fake the skeletons of them? So the fact that we have no full skeleton of any dinosaur, that's admitted. So how could you say that that's fake? Why wouldn't, if they're faking it all, why not just say we have several skeletons of full dinosaurs? But they don't say that because they don't. So it's just the kind of same thing. You have to kind of sometimes deduce your opinion. And this is one case where there's no way this can be a government op. He's simply a filmmaker. And we need to start by looking at, or not start, but get to exactly what Aron does for a living. Let me show you. So we know he's a filmmaker, right? So I'm going to go over here to his little page here. He's the lead instructor at dvworkshops.com. But you might start to get a picture of why it is that he had to act the way he did on my show. Aron Ranen, award-winning documentary filmmaker, video journalist, camera person. He's been on Netflix. Okay, so now let's look at some of the things. He's currently a video journalist for Reader's News Agency, the Associated Press, that's the AP, Agence France Press. He's a camera person, producer, and editor for Plus Broadcast Live. And let's see, he's worked with Clint Eastwood. His corporate clients have included Bank of America, Google, Telecare, Intuit, Hewitt, Jones Lang LaSalle, Berkshire Hathaway, Teledata, National Portable Storage Association. So, you know, these are just some. How about Laurel Space Systems? His documentaries have. Now look at this over here. He's also trained members of the U.S. Navy, plus members of the National Security Agency. Yeah, that's the NSA, Kaiser Permanente, Verizon, ExxonMobil, Cisco, Google, Apple. So Northrop Grumman. So these are the people that he works with. So he cannot just come out and say he doesn't think we went to the moon. He just can't do it. And why? Well, let's look at some recent news stories. Shaquille O'Neal says that Earth is flat, and a few days later, he gets called out on Jimmy Kimmel. The first question out of Jimmy Kimmel's mouth was, "You're kidding about flat Earth, right?" And Shaq replies, "Am I?" And then says he was kidding. Stephen Curry says plain as day and honestly that he doesn't think we went to the moon. 2 days later, he apologized, then lies to the world and says he was kidding. Okay? Then he has to have an interview with Scott Kelly to kiss his ass and proclaim NASA is God. And we could go on and on about this social structure that protects NASA, protects space, and will socially wreck you for speaking out. I mean, think of all the sports stars who may not think that we went to the moon. Do you think that now they're going to speak out? I don't know if you know this. This is another thing that is news. Stephen Curry, moon boots or moon shoes, whatever they're called. I don't know. Moon shoes. Where's it at here? Yep, here we go. So this is a good place here. So Stephen Curry, after this whole thing, had to create some. They've created some moon shoe for him that he signed here. I can do all things. I can do all things, like go to the sphere in the sky. Yeah, he can do all things. He signed these, and then he has to he posted them on eBay, and now he's donating that money to STEM research so that children can learn all about science and everything. So this is what happens. You get made an example of if you dare speak out. Think of all that this guy's been through. So why would any sports star, anybody in Hollywood, why would they come out at this point and say that they don't think we went to the moon? This is what happens. This is what the social dynamic, this is what this space lie has done. You have to go kiss ass with Scott Kelly. Who the hell wants to do that? Who wants to have a hangout with that jerk? I mean, we could go on and on about, what protects them, but there's no reason. So I talked to you about the moon shoes. It's just ridiculous too. Everyone's like so proud of, he's donating this money. He put the shoes up on eBay. He's not donating any of his own money. It's not like he bought the shoes. So I don't even know what the big deal is. I mean, he makes $37 million a year, which I say that like it's a lot, and then I forget that NASA makes $56 million a day. I mean, yeah, Stephen Curry makes $37 million a year. So, NASA's making quite a bit more than that. But, the donating of this shoes is just ridiculous. It's all stories to get people to feel good. And well, look at us, and the very patriotic. We went to the moon, and Stephen Curry, he was joking, and he's not joking. That's the worst thing about this. I'm not much of a sports fan anymore. If I was, I would be a Warrior fan like I used to be. Always liked Stephen Curry from the time he played with the Warriors as far back as when he was a rookie. And now I don't have respect for the guy anymore. Not when you, in all honesty, and if anybody's heard I don't have it queued up right now, but if anybody's heard the podcast that he was on, he was completely honest in saying, yeah, I don't think we went to the moon. Then he gave his reasons why he doesn't think so. A couple other people chimed in and said they don't think so either. And then they moved on to another topic. And that was it. And then 2 days later, he comes out and says he was joking. And everybody accepts it. Now, what are you accepting liars for? He's a liar. He lied to the world by saying he was joking about not going to the moon. And then he has to go through all these steps. So again, they block people from ever even doubting it. So we looked at who he works for, Aron Ranen, and so it's the same thing to me. It's the same thing. So he works for all those people. He's not going to go out on the limb. I think he got away with one, basically. He got away with one by getting this money. He has to go prove that we went to the moon. He couldn't prove it, so he made a documentary called Did We Go?, in which he loads it with a bunch of evidence that should tell you that we didn't. And that's basically it. He goes on Geraldo. He goes on Glenn Beck and is speaking from the perspective of, well, did we go? Asking people, saying he couldn't prove it. And so when he came on my show, he clammed up and basically tried to change the subject. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he couldn't prove it. He couldn't prove it with taxpayer money. So when I started to try and ask him some questions as a filmmaker that he should know as to the impossibility of driving around filming on a moon buggy with 60s technology, sending it back 250,000 miles, he wanted to change the subject and talk about his other documentaries that are probably safer for him. When I tried to get him back on track, he bailed. So you can check out the interview if you want, but I think it's pretty easy to see what happened. As a filmmaker, he couldn't prove it. He wants to believe. Hell, I want to believe. I mean, but I don't. I certainly wouldn't if I was given $65,000 to do so and still couldn't. But yeah, Glenn Beck, you could just go his direction if you want and just believe it because Buzz says so. That's smart, right? You'll never get deceived when you just ask the person that's accused of something, did you do this? No? All right, good. Thank goodness. So now ask yourself, why would anybody come out against this nationalistic, patriotic, religious belief in landing on spheres in the sky? People's livelihoods are on the line. They have no incentive, to be honest, especially if they, like Aron, believe that we went. It's all faith. And he said that. It's a religion. Blind faith, religion. I've been saying that for 4 years now. Scientism has completely hijacked science and is now the socially demanded position. You don't stray from the going narrative. And we can answer ourselves the question, did we go? I think Aron proved nothing or provided me nothing to help me think that we went to the moon, and tons that calls it into question. Well, that's not true. The one proof he seemed to believe in, let's go to that, was the fact that he went to some lunar ranging place. Let's listen to that portion of the, let's see here. Let me bring you over, give you a little better view. There you go. And now we're going to listen to him talk about his main proof, I guess, that we went to the moon. He doesn't have proof. He says he's 70% sure, and you heard him. He hopes. It's a blind faith. But he did go to the lunar ranging or the lunar ranger place. Let's listen to him talk about it maybe here.
I didn't know this was going to be an ambush interview.
No, it's not an
ambush.
ambush.
Not an ambush interview. We're on the same team here, Aron.
I have so many questions.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Next time we'll do on video. Wave my hands. It's a joke.
Like I said, I'm actually jealous. I wish that I got to do some of the stuff that you did. Did you look into it all? The moon rock that was given by the 3 astronauts to Holland, and then it ended up being a piece of petrified wood?
No, but one of the science experiments that I did do was I did go to the McDonald Observatory in Texas. It's supposed to be the darkest place in like America. And it's just a telescope farm up there. It's really cool. Everybody sleeps all day because they work all night. And there were people tracking near-Earth objects on one telescope. And they actually gave me a week, the University of Texas, with 2 people. And and I showed Dave the footage of this. We were able to try to laser range off the moon. As you know, you can send pulses through a laser. And theoretically, if there is a reflector at that point.
Wrong. This is where he's wrong. And I tried to point it out to him. You can go back and listen to this interview. I keep trying to say it over and over again. He doesn't listen to me. Where I said the laser reflectors that they say are on the moon are not in any way proof that anyone or any craft has ever been there. Why? Well, let me show you. I think I've shown this many times before. But all you need to do is go to, oops, what did I do? All you need to go to is lunar laser ranging experiment from Wikipedia. It talks about the ongoing lunar ranging experiment, measures distances, blah, blah, blah. They show pictures of this lunar ranger or whatever. Here's the thing that people don't realize. The first successful tests were carried out in 1962 when a team from MIT succeeded in observing laser pulses reflected from the moon's surface using a laser with a millisecond pulse length. 1962, guess what? Nobody had been to the moon yet. Nobody had dropped any retroreflectors there. Some guy called into Raw later that night and said, no, but I think maybe it was Aron Ranen, actually. Maybe we'll listen a little bit further. He might say here, oh, no, but the Russians left retroreflectors there. Let's listen.
It will send that signal in a parallel path back to Earth. And it took us, I think it was 3 nights before we started getting what they call returns.
It took 3 nights before you started getting what they call returns? Folks, you've heard it before. They send 4 quadrillion photons at the moon, and they consider it a return when they get 1 back. But if they did it in 1962, when there's no retroreflector there, then what difference does it make? What do you mean? And it took you 3 nights, but it can be done when there's no retroreflectors. So how in the world, and this is the kind of nonsense that keeps being pushed by people who believe in the moon landing as if it's proof of anything. It's not proof of anything because they did it when there was no retroreflectors there. And all you have to do to find that, I mean, you can look up, you'd have to look up, I don't know what it is, Luna 17 maybe, let's see. Is that the first one? Unmanned space mission, also called Luna. Yeah, so what date was this one? Yeah, so this is, what date was this? November 15, 1970. So that's way past. So that's after, NASA supposedly went. So you have to realize that these guys don't even get their own arguments. Aron Ranen is using this as an argument that he thinks we went to the moon because he went to an observatory where they sent a laser off the moon. 3 nights later, they get one little return, and he said that must mean that there's retroreflectors there. Again, let's continue because I believe he says that, no. When I bring it up, he says, no, I'm talking about the Russian ones that went up there on unmanned missions. Well, there is no Russian unmanned mission that dropped retroreflectors on the moon. I mean, there is well after, according to that, but there is none in 1962. So, I don't know, we could look up retroreflectors. Reflectors on moon. Lasers on Earth aimed at retroreflectors planted on the moon during Apollo 11. Okay, so 1962. How the hell did they get it back then? Again, this is just the kind of nonsense that people continue to believe. List of retroreflectors on the moon. Let's go here. All right, so these are the retroreflectors on the moon. They tell you each one and when it was dropped there. And you can see here that there is no retroreflectors dropped anytime until Luna 17 and Luna 21, which were both well after. Let's see, this was 73. This was, we just said 70. Right. And you got Apollo 11, 14, and 15. So this is when you start to realize when people have to tell you a lie to try and get the truth across, then you know the truth's a lie. You don't need to lie to people so why in the world does even NASA and all these guys keep using this as proof when it's not proof? If you got laser returns from the moon in 1962, when there were no retroreflectors there, then you cannot say, well, now we send lasers off the moon and they return, and so we know that people put retroreflectors up there. What are you talking about? I mean, it's just ridiculous that people can't realize this. It's really, really sad. So anyway, yeah, there's no retroreflector on the moon in 62, yet the MIT shot a laser, got a return. So yeah, so after you sat there and spent 3 days, Aaron, and you got a return, well, it's no different than they did in 1962. And there was no retroreflector there, so it certainly isn't proof that anybody went to the moon. It's not proof that any craft ever landed on the moon. It's no proof that any rover or any retroreflector ended up there. No proof at all. So let's see here what else we got going on. The other thing is that I wanted to just show, because, Wernher von Braun is an interesting character. Let me read this to you, and I want you to tell me who you think wrote it, okay? This is a letter to the California State Board of Education. One cannot be exposed to the law and order of the universe without concluding that there must be design and purpose behind it all. The better we understand the intricacies of the universe and all it harbors, the more reason we have found to marvel at the inherent design upon which it is based. To be forced to believe only one conclusion, that everything in the universe happened by chance, would violate the very objectivity of science itself. What random process could produce the brains of a man or a system of the human eye? What strange rationale makes some physicists accept inconceivable electron as real, while refusing to accept the reality of a designer on the ground that they cannot conceive him? It is in scientific honesty that I endorse the presentation of alternative theories for the origin of the universe, life, and man in the science classroom. It would be an error to overlook the possibility that the universe was planned rather than happening by chance. This is a letter to the California State Board of Education, September 14, 1972, by Wernher von Braun. So these are the kind of things that they don't mention that to you, do they? No. And he obviously put it on his gravestone, but I think this is more important. You don't just need to see that he says the firmament shows the handiwork, and to read this. So right there, you've got him saying that it's, he's not in the same camp as them, but he's a weird character. Let me show you another reason that's strange. This website here is hopefully being shown. Good. I did a show on this maybe over a year ago called Child Indoctrination is the Problem with This World. This site is called challenger.org, and it's basically for teachers. It teaches you how to teach space and Challenger lessons and who we are, and it's NASA funded, NASA promoted. But basically it's lesson plans for teachers. And you can go through and you can start with elementary school, right, and see how do we explore strange environments? Where is the solar system? Nanocritters, shuttle coordinates, framing. So these are all little lesson plans. For middle school, you got layers of the moon, how the shape and size and distance affect viewpoints, moon maneuvers, moon mining. This is why the world's going the direction it is. You get down here to high school, and you'll find something. I was just looking at these, and then I saw lessons in perspective. I said, sweet. I want to read about lessons in perspective. Let's read it. So you hit download, opens up this site, okay? And I said, let's read about perspective. But it's not quite what I thought. This is a teaching document. Tells you who it's for, the grade level, the topics, the subject, okay? How were the greatest achievements and worst atrocities of the 20th century related? Tells you how to go through this lesson. By the end, the students will be able to understand the issues relating to the concept of whether or not the ends justify the means. Okay, so you're gonna teach children whether or not ends justify the means. Okay, talks about understanding that their perspectives and perceptions may be shaped by selective use of data. Okay, have a better appreciation of the work that both scientists and historians must do in making informed decisions and judgments. Understand how a person or historical figure may be regarded as a hero and villain by some and villain by others. Understand how one individual can be connected to the atrocities of the Holocaust as well as lead a pivotal role in getting mankind to the moon. So one of the things you can do, you have to go to this little section, Activity 1, and they basically give you, I thought there was a link in here to get there. I don't know where it is. Activity 3. Let's see. Oh, here it is. So what they do is they read you 2 biographies. This is what you're supposed to do with students in your classroom if you're lost to what I'm talking about. And it gives the biography of Mr. X and says Mr. X was a rocket scientist that worked for Germany in World War II, designed and helped build 2 rocket-propelled weapons that were launched against England. The weapons were the V1 and V2. The weapons killed people, did a lot of damage to buildings. He was a member of the SS, an elite and high-trained group of officers that were primarily responsible for many of the atrocities committed during World War II. He built his rockets using slave labor from a nearby concentration camp. Many laborers who broke the rules were killed. Laborers who became too ill to work were taken to a camp where they were left to die without any medical attention. Mr. X was captured by American soldiers at the end of the war. You read further, and they tell you now to read the student's biography of Mr. Y. Mr. Y was a naturalized citizen of the United States in the 50s. He designed and built many rockets, blah, 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 blah. Goes on explaining how great of a man this is. Here's the issue. Now they say that the dilemma is you then tell these people, and this gives it to you in the lessons plan, this is for teachers by NASA, then it tells you to tell the children that the person is the same person, right? Okay, so now you've got, and it says, have people look up the websites for both these people. They find out that they're both the same. And what they're actually teaching children here is that the ends do justify the means. Meaning it's okay that he killed thousands of people because he got us to the moon. It is insanity that this is even allowed. It's ridiculous. I want you to understand, okay, so just what I just told you, right? To the ends justify the means. I want you to read this next document. This is the Do Now Dilemma. And let's just answer it together as we would as being decent, good people. So it says, you hear that your friend that lives next door is going to ride her bike across town after school so that she can participate in a fight against kids from other school. You are afraid that she might get in trouble and possibly injured. So after school, you hurry home and puncture the tires of her bike so that she can't make the trip. When she asks you about her bike, you tell her that you don't know anything about how the tires went flat, but will help repair them. Was it okay for you to flatten her tires in order to keep her from getting hurt or getting into trouble? Can you believe that? I mean, can you imagine? That is ridiculous. I mean, this is not what you should be teaching kids. That is not okay. Go talk to her parents. Talk to her. The last thing you do, you're going to pop her tires and then tell her, I don't know how they went flat, but I'll help you repair them to keep her from going and getting in a fight. Just ridiculous. This is why there's a disconnect between our children and us that were raised a generation earlier. It's just crazy. So yeah, he's a very interesting character. This is the kind of thing that they are pushing, in this lessons in perspective. This is what they want to teach children: is that it's okay that the ends justify the means. It's okay that NASA, that NASA was started by these German scientists. And what people don't even realize is this was all hidden from the public. This is not something that everybody knew at the time. This stuff was hidden. And that's why they had to put on a good face when it finally came out that von Braun was a Nazi. They handed him over to Disney and said, here, promote this guy, and we'll call him the good Nazi. And that's what they did. Put him on films, and people fell in love with him or whatever, and we're real proud of his work. And again, is this the people we want running the space program? It's crazy. So very interesting there. We talked about that. We did that. Just checking my little thing here, just making sure I have everything else. We did that and that. Good. And we talked about the retro reflectors. So anyway, I just wanted to cover that because I saw so many comments and people in the chat that were saying that they think Aron Ranen's a shill and this and that. And, that's up to you. You can choose to believe that if you want. But I think just by going through as we just did right now, it's not that. It's just an example of what is wrong with this world, that people are put into positions where they can't speak out. And he basically, in my mind, did the best thing he could do, which was provide the evidence in the documentary that should lead you to the belief or to think what you want. And I totally agree with that too. You can believe that we went to the moon if you want. My hope would be that you would be like Aron and would at least admit that the reason you believe that is blind faith. I mean, that's, at least he was honest in saying that no, and even with $65,000, he wasn't able to prove it. So he says, I believe it based on he said complete blind faith, totally blind faith. So if you think that's a safe way to go through things, if that's a safe way, then good for you. I don't. I don't think it's okay just to go in with blind faith and say, no, I'm just going to believe it, even though I couldn't prove it. No, I don't think that's the way we want to do it. So I think he did a good job, and I think people should recognize that. And he made it pretty obvious that when we started asking him questions deeper into the moon, that he tried to change the subject. Then we tried again, and then he left. So to me, I think Aron's a good guy, but I think so many people in the world are in this predicament. So why would we ever expect anybody at academic institutions or anything like that to come out and speak against the system when you will be shamed for it? You will probably lose your job. You will lose any future projects, any future jobs, any future employment. This is what they do to keep the narrative going. And Aron's smart enough to notice that. He put out the video, Did We Go? And then he goes on interviews like my show and says, well, he's still 70% sure he thinks because of blind faith. So I think he did the best that you could possibly do, but people should recognize what happens and why. I always hear people say, well, why has there been no whistleblowers? Why is nobody? Well, if anybody even comes out and says they think something happened, they're shamed. They're shamed. They're going to lose their job. Look what happened to Steph Curry. Watch what happened to Shaq and Kyrie Irving. It is not okay in this world for you to speak out against the religious zealots that push the fantastical fantasy of space, and it's sad. I don't know how people can believe that we went to the moon. You're welcome to believe it, but I just don't see it. I don't understand, other than if it's complete blind faith. If that's what you're going on and you just say, nope, I want to believe because I'm an American and it makes me feel good that we went, that's fine. Then you can believe that. But if you are actually a truth seeker, if you really care about the truth, then you should look into it a little bit deeper. The entire idea of this heliocentric model is nonsense. It really is. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, I want to, I got to do a video about that too. But one of the things, let's just talk about real quick. I'll just throw us in there and then I'll look at the chat. But I still have not been given a good example or a good reason why we should even believe that the gas that is our atmosphere could ever move with the spinning Earth. Think about it. So they say gravity. That's what, the normal thing I hear. Oh, gravity is holding the atmosphere to the Earth as it spins, which goes against laws that we know that, it's not going to move. A solid is not going to move gas along with it. Sure, it can push it along. But when you're talking about the atmosphere and the ground being, 70% smooth, if the Earth's a ball, you got 70% of its water. So that's not going to grip and move the atmosphere along with it. So they say gravity does. Okay, gravity's holding the atmosphere, that's fine. Now you get a helicopter, and a helicopter rises above the Earth a little bit and just hovers there. So now the air and the Earth and the helicopter are moving? What is strong enough to move the helicopter? It makes no sense, folks. Just think about that. Just think about the fact that if the air was moving along with the Earth, then clouds would all move in that same direction. It's ridiculous. We look up and we see clouds going in every different direction. So it just doesn't make sense when you think about it. There's no way that the Earth is spinning, and people should recognize that. You just need to erase everything you've been taught. Erase it all, and then ask yourself, am I moving? And there's nobody on this earth that would say yes. Start from that premise. Start from there and realize that everything that you believe about spinning and flying through space and you're upside down and we're spinning as the sun rises and sets and all that stuff is simply what you were taught. Erase that and look at the world that you were given. It's an amazing place. I also want to do a video that's titled "The Earth is All There Is." Because for you to believe in something else requires evidence. I need evidence to believe in something else. The Earth, in my mind, is all there is. And if you want to prove to me there's planets and moons and things that we can go land on, then provide me the evidence, not the fake stuff that you've been putting out. It's ridiculous to think that all these guys, I mean, it's so ridiculous that we went to the moon in 69, 70, 71, 72, and haven't gone further than 200 miles since. If you believe that, that's great. If you think that they sent live video from the moon in 69, but China the other day couldn't send live video of their little craft, it's 2019. Where is the HD photography, the HD video? Such a joke. Such a joke. So anyway, yeah, there was other parts of the documentary that I was going to play, but I don't have them queued up, so I think you get the point. Watch the documentary, and again, if this documentary, you know, I want it. I want these things to be proven to me, and then when they're not, you know, I want to see why. And with Aron, I thought that it would be pretty simple. I said, okay, here's this guy. He had $65,000, couldn't prove it. At least he'll come on the show and say, no, I couldn't prove it. But instead, he went the route of, well, he's 70% sure we went because of blind faith. Well, that's not the kind of evidence that I'm looking for to change my opinion. I don't know about you. You know, blind faith is the worst way to believe something. So it's not for me. And belief systems are the problem with the world, without a doubt. You know, so let's see here. I'm going to bring up the chat, and if you guys have a question, I'll just hang with you for a little while and we'll talk. And if you guys have a question